Reminder that I would like to provide a couple of the team members' comment to me about it. The buzz from the gallery last time became a little bit noticeable. And so, just as a gentle reminder about the rules of decorum for these conversations so that we can make sure that everything proceeds smoothly. And I appreciate it in advance. Thank you. Okay, the meeting minutes from item 2 from April 19th, 2017. Ms. Ricks?
Yep, I'm fine. I'm also fine with it.
Item 3 is signed tentative agreements. There are none at this time, which takes us to item Roman numeral 4. Discuss topics for negotiations and bargaining. The floor is open.
Go for it.
You're looking at me. Well, we might as well just, continue with our personal leave bank. Actually, the simplified leave language topic. Mr. Chair,
Item A, Mr. Fay.
we do appreciate the information coming to us yesterday so that we could have an opportunity to take a look at it and so forth. Mr. Schilbring, you had a couple questions.
Okay, do we all have that document? Okay. I guess the first question here is, we'd like some rationale and some clarification under where it says personal leave language, under 2 items. Number 2, participation, and number 4, activation.
All I attempted to do was provide something that was similar to the information and language that's in the negotiated agreement regarding the sick leave bank. And so I picked some arbitrary numbers.
Okay.
Just to provide an opportunity for the parties to have a point to begin. And with respect to the activation, I know that that is different from the sick leave bank, but the sick leave bank does have a minimum amount of hours that must be maintained in the bank. And I was assuming that when the sick leave bank was first initiated, that minimum number of hours needed to be met so that the threshold was established before it could be utilized.
Okay.
And so, you know, that's where that came from, and I thought it was important to clarify that It was not the intent, this is my impression from the discussion anyway, it wasn't the intention of the parties to have a personal leave bank with 3 hours in it. That was my impression, even so.
Okay, I'll go to participation second, because the 200 accumulated hours is actually talked about there, but it comes up in activation. And so the personal leave bank will be activated when the balance reaches a minimum of 200 accumulated hours. Whenever the sick leave bank drops below 200 hours, a request for additional contributions will be sent to teachers. Until such time as the personal leave bank balance is restored to a minimum of 200 hours, the bank will remain non-operational. Okay, well, I'll come back to that. Participation, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I had a couple people read this who aren't even involved. And so, because I wanted to see if what I was thinking was kind of maybe off the wall, but it says a participant is a teacher who has contributed to the personal leave bank. So my first question is, so if somebody wants to use the personal leave bank, they have to contribute to it.
By that language, yes.
Okay? To remain a participant, the teacher must contribute to the personal leave bank each time a request is made to restore the bank to the minimum of 200 accumulated hours. Failure to make a contribution permanently eliminates a teacher from participation in the personal leave bank. Okay, so we wanted to come up with something because we were having some trouble with simplifying leave language. We wanted to come up with something that would help those people that had to take day deducts. So I have something that happens, and okay, number one, if I haven't donated to it, I can't use it. Okay? Well, that might eliminate quite a few people. Number two, if I need to use it, I don't have a personal day to or any personal hours to donate back if it drops below 200. So you're basically telling me that it's no good for me if that's my situation. Okay? Then, if we go back to activation, okay, I understand maybe you need a little something in there, but you got to have a minimum of 200 hours, so we're basically saying that all of our teachers, that's 25 days, all of our teachers have to donate an estimate of $3,000 before anybody can use this. And I'm sorry, but that doesn't fix the problem. We have to have 200 hours in there, and then if it drops below, we have to make sure it's at 200 or it's non-operational. And so those are just some concerns with that wording right there.
On the one that you proposed, you just had that you'll ask for donations when it drops below the requests that are made. So basically, are you just wanting it to, like, when it zeroes out, then we'll get more requests? Is that what you're? I see
Well,
what
that
you're
was
saying.
that was the original wording. Yes, but we come with something that is no cost to our district. No cost whatsoever. We come with something where teachers are taking care of teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And now we look at this wording, we go, well, we have to donate 200 hours, about probably $3,000 worth before we can even use it. I don't agree with that.
Okay, well, let's fix it.
And then I also think another portion to it is the person we're wanting to help out isn't going to be somebody who can even donate to it to begin with. I mean, they are somebody that has had to use up everything they've had,
Every ounce.
every ounce. Therefore, they have nothing left to give to donate into the bank. So that first participation, a participant is a teacher,
Period?
period. Period. I mean, it is a teacher that comes with a need, you know. Doesn't mean, I mean, yes, if you've donated to the bank, you can come with a need and utilize the help, but we've got a lot that aren't gonna be able to donate anything to it that still should be able to participate.
This is basic, for the most part, this is something to help younger teachers, because they haven't accumulated days.
Yep.
They're the people who don't have days to donate typically. Those of us that have been around for a while, you know what, we can do that. We have more sick days than we probably will ever use. So, I fully agree with Mrs. Kinnick.
I think it's important for me to clarify that I wasn't telling anybody anything. I was asked to provide a sample for consideration and for discussion, and that's what I did.
Okay?
And I know that we had some lengthy discussions the first time we proposed, when we brought the language, the first time when we were asked about catastrophic illness or injury. And in the minutes, it talks about, you know, that has so many different meanings to so many different people. So we were asked to take that out, and then all of a sudden it's back in again in this sample, because it's like the sick leave language. You know, so I was a little confused on that one as well. You know, 2 meetings ago, we didn't want it, but now you want it again. So I was a little confused when I read that as well, because I have my notes over here.
I don't think this is what we want or don't want. We asked the administration to think of ways that it could be clarified, and so I think the one you have printed out doesn't reflect the change that we sent out, but we,
Yeah, that's printed beforehand.
okay. So these were just possible ways of trying to meet the need. So one of the ideas was that we could define it the same as emergency leave, which is just accident, illness, or injury, I believe.
And I know the one of the reasons why we did bring this up was the reason of, you know, it was a recurring life issue appointments, whether it was at Mayo or whether it was in Bismarck to a specialist. Well, theoretically, then that would not fall under that definition.
It wouldn't be an illness? Because I also asked this question to Mr. Reed, but I think we agreed that it would be an illness.
Yeah, if there's a condition, a health condition that requires going back, okay, somebody gets cancer and they have treatment, but in 4 months you need to come back to see that's still part of that illness, and because nobody can say it'll never come back. So that's kind of how we've treated it over the years, that's emergency leave because there's an ongoing illness.
And when I spoke with Mr. Reeve about it, I ran through several different scenarios, you know, trying to make sure that everything that I could think of would be covered under that language. Like, for example, my son has a hole in his heart. He's doing fine, but he has to go back to the cardiologist to get checked on. The cardiologist in Bismarck, I have no control over when that gets scheduled. So I said, would that be covered under, you know, illness? And he said, yes.
And that's
Absolutely.
that's the exact information we need,
Okay.
you know, because that's a similar situation. And we want to make sure, and I'm going to agree with Mr. Schobinger that the people that we're looking to help with this are those who are in dire need and have used every ounce of their leave on that illness. And they can't participate. They can't give. They've given to what they have to give. We can't agree to that.
Okay.
We cannot.
It's not a proposal.
Right, I know.
Okay.
I know.
What, so can I ask you, does the emergency leave definition fit? Is that basically, because, you know, we discussed it, well, what would happen? Someone could apply for additional emergency leave, but now they're out of sick days, so therefore they're out of even additional emergency leave. So does that cover the interest, that part of it, that we're defining it like emergency leave?
So the allowance may be used for accidents, illness, or death involving the teacher's
Oh,
spouse.
Okay, so then maybe we just need to marry these two things. So if we're using this definition, and then you've defined some of the things that you wanted on your language over here, about the offer to contribute will be available at the end of the school year. Teachers can stipulate the hours they wish to contribute. And I don't even know if we need application, because it's stated up here that a teacher may apply for leave when all personal leave earned and banked has been exhausted. Sick leave and personal leave earned and banked has been exhausted. So it may be that we can put these two things together and have something that works. 'Cause I think our primary issue with this was the definition.
If that were the case, would we need, number one, catastrophic illness or means extreme or life-threatening?
Mm-mm.
You know, if we add number three, when all sick leave and personal leave earned and banked has been exhausted, so then it would, the same concept would go there. So then we would not have to add the catastrophic illness or injury.
Mhm.
Okay? So I'm looking at my sheet that we provided last week,
Mhm.
and I like the first sentence, the first two sentences. And I would be open to adding the three, when all sick leave and personal leave earned and banked, right to that point right there.
Okay, so under personal leave, then, these first two sentences?
Yep. DPS will maintain a personal leave bank. The purpose of the personal leave bank is to help teachers alleviate pay deducts for significant hardships that do not qualify as a sick leave bank. When all sick leave and personal leave earned and banked has been exhausted, a teacher may apply for leave.
Okay, so I think there's a differentiation then. Maybe it should read, the purpose of the personal leave bank is to help teachers alleviate pay deducts for significant hardships when all sick leave and personal leave earned and banked has been exhausted.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting you would like a separate section rather than putting it under emergency leave? I'm just clarifying what we're drafting here.
Sort through my papers here. The more I look at that, I'm liking, if we would put as defined, I gotta go back and find that again. Because the definition in emergency leave for the daily allowance may be used for accidents, illness, or death involving the teachers is different than would be defined in 6G1.
Right, this
Which-
isn't the edited one.
Right, okay. Yeah. We edited it.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get that one.
Here,
That's okay.
would you like the edited version to look at?
Okay, done. The edited one I would be okay with.
And let me express a thought of why we thought about putting it under emergency leave additionally, is to keep it simple, which was the original intent of this subject. And so we didn't want to have a situation unnecessarily where a teacher now has to figure out, okay, I'm in a situation, do I apply for emergency leave? Or do I use the personal leave bank? Or do I use the sick bank? You know, if I'm, so that's another reason we thought it might be good to just put it under emergency leave, like, look, when this runs out, here's your next step or your next option.
Right. So we could actually just add, you know, after significant hardships, just say, after exhausting all available leave. And then that would be it for number 1. Because it just, you know, reiterates that there, so
Okay.
I don't know if we want to.
So we're leaving this here, and then this will be an additional section, just clarifying what this does. Right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. Okay, so, what happens if the leave bank drops to 0 because it's been used up, and the appeal goes out, and we don't get very many contributions for whatever reason? I guess I'm asking, what happens if the bank becomes non-functional? Then do we just take it out in a future negotiation session? Or, I think that was probably Dr. Sullivan's concern and maybe why he thought through this process.
I think that I think if we're going to try it, we need to try it without having a minimum number of accumulated hours. And if it would fall below, you know, we as a DEA and as teachers would have to appeal, and if we can't appeal, well, then obviously it didn't work. And then what we were trying to do didn't work, and we would have to negotiate to get it out of the agreement later. But I would hope that the humanity of our teachers would be that they would continue to provide for those who can't.
Dr. Sullivan and Mr. Reed, in the language that we provided for discussion, there's nothing about the application process or what that looks like. Did you have?
Yeah, there is right here. You just gotta go to the second page.
Oh, sorry. Let me get my facts straight. Just 1 second.
Another change that we would look at too is in number 3. I didn't have participant crossed out. I would want that crossed out and teacher put in there, and not on the one Dr. Sullivan sent out, but the one that we used last week. Because participant would allude to the fact that they have to give, and we don't want that to be a factor.
Do you have any concerns with 5, 6, and 7 on this version? Because I want to make sure that the people who are administering it are comfortable with this part.
And I appreciate the HIPAA portion being put in there, because that was not something that we did think about. It would be hours, not days. And number 6, determine the number of hours granted to the teacher.
And 7 has days in it also.
And we want to, when we are looking at hours, 48 hours, even though that is 6 days, we are still looking at hours.
Is the differentiation between hours and days important in administering it, Dr. Sullivan?
In item 6, it makes sense, because somebody might put in for 4 hours, but I don't see that.
In item 7, it wouldn't matter.
Either way, it'll work.
Okay, so if it's important to have it say 48 hours, I think that's okay.
Well, I think that part of our reasoning behind that was that we know our teachers are going to try to be as best stewards of their time as they can be, and they're going to try and arrange those appointments so they don't have to spend as much time. Because that is your concern and is our concern, that teachers are in the classroom, so we would want hours.
Okay.
And could we add, again, the DEA president as we had in ours? Because so far, year 6 and R4 is identical, with the exception of the DEA president also receiving that quarterly report.
Are there any objections?
That's the only difference between R4 and year 6 is hours and the DEA president receiving the quarterly report.
Are there any objections to providing a quarterly report to the DEA president for any reason?
What's the purpose of the quarterly report?
It was because it was on the sick leave portion as well.
That's the only reason
That was the reason why I put it too.
I don't see the purpose in either.
Well, I think that we would want an end of the year report, at the end of the school year report, so that we could make that appeal for more hours as needed, and we would want that.
Okay, so what should we change it to an annual report for the superintendent and DEA president? That seems like less work for everybody.
Annual report in April, or good?
I'm just going to throw this out there. The language, if I'm recalling correctly, says that the administration will make the opportunity to participate available on an annual basis through what form, Mr. Reed?
We'd have to resurrect our form that is used to be sent to teachers saying, here's your number of hours in personal leave. What would you like to do with them? Get paid for them, obviously roll them or cash them, or put them into the sick,
Now we'd have.
convert them to sick leave, which no one ever does.
Could that be done via a quick online survey instead?
That would be something payroll I could ask them about that.
Because as long as it's tracking to which individual answered it, tracked by
Yeah.
email or something, that might be more efficient for everybody instead of having to.
So we could find a method for it.
Okay, so that's not a barrier in your opinion?
I don't think so.
I would be okay with annual.
I'm not going to disagree, okay, but if I were the DEA president, if something were coming, let's say we had something in the beginning of the year, and somebody had to use days and it's getting low, as a DEA president, I would like to know before Christmas if I needed to go and say, hey, people, we may need some more days here. Let's think about it. It isn't to 0 yet, but it might be there and it might come up. Waiting till the end of the year, and I understand that, yes, it's a lot easier, But if we could find a way to inform, I think it would be very helpful. I know I would want to know, and maybe I have to come ask, I don't know. But we should find a way to make sure that we're aware of what's there.
Would you want some sort of, I don't know, that might be difficult. I was thinking of a trigger number at which whoever's monitoring this bank would just send the DEA president a message, hey, we're down to 12 hours or whatever, but I don't know if that's just gonna be more of a headache for the person who's watching the bank to remember to do that. Instead of just having a set time every quarter, we're gonna send you a report of how many hours. That might actually be
How about,
easier.
what about if we do a report December 15, April 15? That's twice a year, and would give you.
Okay.
But I think we need to have that with the DEA president too. And then 7, again, we would be teachers
Mhm.
in the personal leave bank.
The teachers.
6,
Teachers using the personal leave bank.
yeah, teachers using the personal leave bank, yeah. 48 hours.
Mhm.
And I'm fine with that last statement about receiving it once they receive employer-related disability benefits. I'm okay with that statement. So I've got personal leave bank will maintain it, and the purpose of the personal leave bank will help teachers alleviate paid deductible significant hardships after exhausting all available leave. That's number 1. Participation, the offer to contribute to the personal leave bank will be available at the end of the school contract year. Should the balance of personal leave bank drop below the valid request, a district-wide appeal for additional contributions will be made. Any problems with that one? Teachers can stipulate the hours they wish to contribute on the end of the year personal leave form. Contributions will be made in 1-hour increments.
Should we say form or survey or?
Yeah, I would say form, and
Okay,
whatever format it's in. It
Mhm.
could be in electronic form.
okay.
Okay.
And then from there, we essentially jump to number 5, right?
Yeah, and we just want to make sure that, yes, then we'd be on 5. And we'd be 5, 6, and 7 yours, so. All right,
Okay, so we'll have this statement.
yep,
And then-
we would add statement 3 to the emergency leave clause. We'd have our 1, 2, our opening 1, 2, and then we would have the district's 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
There's no way I can get that typed up before the end of the meeting.
Twyla already has it done.
I'm sure.
I don't have that, she doesn't.
Well, I think it might be good to let her type it up and then give us just till next time to make sure it's legally tight. I don't see why it wouldn't be, but then we should be able to maybe sign a tentative agreement. Okay? Would that be
I would be open to a
acceptable?
tentative agreement on that one. Guys,
Yes,
you guys okay with that?
yes.
All right.
Is it okay if we keep your notes to look after?
Can you read my notes?
Yes. I'm married to a doctor. I can read anything.
Good to know.
Yeah, we'll just make me a copy if you would, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
It's either put it in.
What's next? think we can get 4 things done tonight. So
Okay.
what's next?
Me. We could look at the calendar.
Sure.
Thoughts on that one?
Did we go through the process on the calendar at all?
Nope.
No, we did not.
Should we start with that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The issue is that the school district needs to be able to respond to emergency situations by adding additional student contact days. That's maybe a bad way to define it. Let me think about this. Maybe it should be by providing student contact days. I mean, just providing education to students.
Parents to the century.
Right. I mean, when we miss school, we need to be able to have a mechanism for making sure that our students get a meet up. That's a great word, thank you.
So the interest would be to be fair to teachers and to know ahead of time what the plan, have a plan in place.
My
Smoking
interest,
over there.
well, my
What's your
interest,
interest?
fair to teachers, but in a little bit different way, by allowing them to make plans based upon a calendar.
Yeah, however you want to word it.
Because, and it really wasn't smirking.
Well, I think we have more interest, but no more will fit up there. I think our other interests maybe are kind of encapsulated in the issue. We want to make sure that we are providing students with an appropriate amount of education, that we're following the law, and that we're being respectful to our taxpayers.
emergence would be for our families and students as well to have accurate, to know days that they can make those longer trips. And to be able to plan for those trips in advance.
So you want a calendar people can depend on?
Yeah. Teachers and family. Teachers and family.
They want a calendar that people can depend on, teachers and families.
Thank you. That's a great way of putting it. Thank you, Linda.
That might fit under your first interest, wouldn't it?
Just add families.
Ahead of
Yeah,
time
just
to
add
have a
families.
plan.
Just add families. Allow teachers / families
Families.
to make plans.
Expect me to fit that in?
Just draw some stick people.
With your grant.
I'm not saving money.
Yeah, that's good enough. We know.
We're ready to move on to options?
Got it.
Yep.
We could just make the school year longer. So if we miss days, we'd still be meeting the minimums that the law requires.
Are you saying add them at the end of the year?
I'm saying, some places I had worked, we just had 10 more, I'm not saying it'd be that many, but we had way more days than the state law required. So if we missed snow days, there were a certain number we could miss without having to do anything because they were already built in.
So you would add more snow days.
No, I
No.
mean, we just had
More contact
more
days.
contact days,
180
period.
Uh,
But we could do, I think that's another good option, you could identify days at the end of the year, that the first week of June or whatever is where all emergency snow days go. People know.
Identify specific days, you know, end of the year, or, I mean, if they said this day could be.
Mhm. So another option then would be, have to look at the century code, because there are certain days in century code which
Mhm.
have to be days off.
Right.
But then any other non-student contact days that aren't required by the century code, you could make potential snow days, and then there could be a priority given to them, so you know how risky it is to make plans on that day, because you know it's day number 1 that's gonna be taken versus day number 8.
Flexible storm days?
Kind of, yeah, I mean, just, so,
It may be, but it may not be.
right, but you would know, so there would be some risk in doing things on that day and choosing to go out of town, but you'd know how much of a risk it was at least. You'd know that, yeah.
How many would you be?
An emergency storm day.
Because I think that would make a difference too.
I don't know, how many days like that are there that are not required to take off during the school calendar year, is there one though?
How many what? I didn't.
How many non-student contact days that aren't required by century code do we have on weekdays
Right,
during
that
the
we
school
take
calendar
off.
year?
So do you wanna make every one of them potentially?
Maybe, I don't know how many there
I
are.
don't know either.
I believe President's Day is one of those that we don't have to take off.
WDA.
Day after Thanksgiving. I mean, the 3 that are required are Good Friday, Thanksgiving, and I think Labor Day.
Christmas?
Christmas.
And then Veterans
I don't know if that's,
I feel like there's a longer list than that.
3 holidays are selected by the
yeah, it's 3 in
board
our
and
calendar.
but it doesn't
Christmas isn't
say
one.
Yeah, Christmas.
We don't have-
shave
I think Christmas
subsection.
and
I don't have
New
that
Year's.
section.
Martin Luther King Day?
Are you looking at our contract?
Yeah.
I'm looking at
You're looking at century code?
century code.
You can?
It is those 3, Sean.
I don't have that subsection. That would be, it's List is provided for in subdivision B through J of subsection 1 of section 15.1-06-02. I don't have that section in the stuff I've printed off.
It's Veterans Day, Good Friday, and Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
That's it? Really? Christmas isn't on that list?
Right.
Christmas falls under a different century code.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not having school on Christmas. That day is safe.
No Grinch here.
I think another option is, of course, to remain the same with the added third day we've already agreed to.
Okay.
Status quo.
Status quo.
Status quo.
I'm glad you said it.
I would offer another suggestion that we plan the number of snow days based upon an average of the previous decade.
Instead of 5 rolling. Because right now, according to Century Code, we have to do a 5-year, it's a rolling 5-year average with a minimum of 2.
But here's the thing, Governor Burgum has indicated that he's not forgiving any days. It doesn't matter if you followed that rule or not.
Right.
So there has to be a way for us to take care of the problem if we
But
get a really bad year.
Mrs. Ricks, we could also be able to utilize a grace day because we do go longer minutes-wise. And
Only if we
that's,
fix the high school.
we're on the list for high school according to DPI, and the minutes that are reported to DPI, we are on the list for both the elementary as well as the high school.
I have an email that was sent January 9th of 2017.
Was that before Governor Burgum's letter, Jay?
Well, but,
Governor Burgum, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Governor Burgum's letter refers to when you are outside of that grace period, so you're allowed 1 grace day. His letter was referring to forgiveness, where you're asking to forgive all your snow days and not have you go through with them.
And
But
a
according
Grace
to-
Day isn't one of those.
No. A grace day is something different, and it is stated in the Century Code as well that that is one of our options when we have, option 1 under the Century Code talks about qualifying districts may use 1 allowed academic day, which is your grace day. A qualifying district is one that schedules school days that are at least 30 minutes longer than required by law, and we meet that requirement.
And what are those, are the requirements?
Yes, elementary needs to be 5.5 hours, and high school needs to be 6.
Mr. Reed, when did you have a conversation with somebody over there who told you something different? Was it a while ago?
That was quite a while ago.
Okay, okay,
In fact, leadership of DPI has changed.
okay.
I can read the
No,
first
it's
part
that,
of
we were
this
just
if we
told
need to.
previously that we could not, and so I think there was some confusion on whether or not we could.
So if we go with what we have right now in the calendar, we have 3 snow days already in the calendar, plus a grace day, that would be 4 days that we could utilize in a school year for snow days without having to change the calendar in any way.
Does anyone know the record of the most days we've ever had to take off of school? Mr. Reed?
I remember 4.
4?
I was in late 78, I think. And I remember that because I was at Gladstone and that was the whole week, all 5. But in town, I think they had 4. It was a bad one.
I didn't go back that far. I went a decade, I didn't go back.
I was in South Dakota. Good timing for me.
I'd like to say I wasn't born yet, but
Mrs. Ricks,
Mr. Fry.
if by chance we got a fluke snowstorm right now
Mhm.
that put us out of school for 2 days, what would we do?
Exactly.
No, I'm asking, you know, we would probably add them to the end of the school year.
Mhm.
'Cause
And-
there are no days from this day forward
Right.
until the end. Once,
Right.
realistically, once
Yes.
Easter is done,
Yes.
there is nothing. You know, so we would have to, we
Extend.
gotta go, we gotta extend our
the school year.
So that comes back to the question then, how do we do that? Because no matter what we do, people have plans for the summer. But by law, we would have to add
Mhm.
days.
Right.
So we need the ability to be able to comply with the law without people coming after us with pitchforks.
Well, there's the other option as well, is to add more time in the day to make up the minutes or the time
Okay.
that's lost. So adding more time in the school day itself. Because it does say, make up missed instructional time by lengthening the school day by 30 minutes per day and/or scheduling an instructional day on a Saturday.
and we have done that at the high school in the past because of kids being stupid.
Yeah.
We had the bomb threat,
Bomb threat.
and we were all out having a play day out in the football field, and they wouldn't let us back in, and I believe that year, we extended the day 15, 20 minutes for a week or something on that line. I can't remember what it was for sure. And then, if I remember right, we had school on a Saturday one time.
That I don't remember. I don't know that one.
And it was in the spring of the year, and I got lucky because I was at a track meet, but we did have school on a Saturday because of another, that was that the threat on doctors? Something on that
That was
line?
2006, yeah, I remember.
So, we've had two situations, that only affected the high school, you know,
Mhm.
where
Okay.
we had to do something different there.
Okay, so, all right, so we can lengthen the school day. School on Saturday, but not Sunday, because that is in the century code,
Mhm.
right? We can add days to the end of the year, so that as snow days happen, you could add days to the end of the year. You could identify more snow days within the school year. I think that kind of sums up what we've talked about so far. And we also talked about utilizing Grace Day. Utilizing a Grace Day.
Last year.
Do you want me to bring him to be the scribe next time? Okay. When you had school on a Saturday, Mr. Schwebingen, do you remember how that happened? Did the board just pick a Saturday? And everyone said okay?
I have no idea. I wish I could answer that for you, but I do not.
Oh, you can't hear.
calling harassment here?
I'll leave.
I'm going to step outside of our usual procedures. Mr. Smith has indicated to me he has an answer to that question, so Mr. Smith, please enlighten the group.
There was an individual that placed a device by the stairs where the teachers walk up. And it was more shenanigans. And it was consensus of our staff that we needed to send a message, and we went to school on a Saturday. And that was the end of it.
So it was only the high school?
That was the threat, yes.
And it was teacher driven?
We were ticked. And we missed instruction that whole day, and we said, we gotta come back. Let's send a message back.
That's what I was gonna tell you. Just what he said, that's my recollection, but.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay.
Discussion, or what do you want to do?
Fill out
Yeah,
the,
option, I mean.
let's just fill them all out.
I would wonder if a longer school year would really be affordable, because you're adding days to the contract
I would agree with you that in our current
situation.
climate, it's probably not affordable to just make a longer school year. Would there be mutual gain? Based on the interest, I would have to say yes, because you did not put an interest up there that says teachers don't want to work more days school year. So with the interest listed, I think the answer is yes, everyone would know.
It's doable,
It would be doable.
and it's not
Not ratifiable.
ratifiable.
Are you
It's not
sure?
ratifiable.
It's not ratifiable. Dang.
Underline that one.
Exclamation point.
Put a maybe there.
Maybe.
That's an N, not an M.
Okay, status quo is affordable. Mutual gain.
Based upon precedence, I would say yes, because we've never had to go 4 days.
Okay.
And since Gladstone?
Yeah, it was 1978.
I feel like it's I don't know, Kim, what is your feeling on that one? I feel like it's an M for me. It's a maybe, because I think that it doesn't really solve the have a plan in place part of it. Probably will be fine,
Right.
Probably.
but we would be fine with the status quo if the DEA was comfortable with us, the conversation we had last time, and the answer was no, you weren't comfortable with that based on the language that we have, and so that's where we're uneasy.
So you have to tell me where on that.
So when we originally brought this topic up,
Yes.
we
Okay.
said, we don't know that we really need to change anything, we just want to have the confidence to know that if something happens and we need to add a day to the school year, we can do that, and everyone's gonna be okay, and the answer was,
I think that I think everything could be okay if there was communication long before. I mean, if you put a calendar out there that said, here are our now 3 built-in snow days, but if a 4th was needed, it would be this day, the first Tuesday in June.
Okay,
And that was on the calendar, I would say that most people, and we understand that by law, you have to have the days. We understand that.
okay,
And we just, when somebody makes the effort to, and our kids especially, with them being gone on their vacations, you know,
Mhm.
they make the effort to do that during a time period where we are off, and then we say, no, we're not. And that's a penalty to them and to teachers who may have had that as well. So, I mean, if we had the situation where we said that this day would be the day at the end of the school year, if we had to, I don't think that would be, I think that would be a mutual gain and doable.
Okay.
It's just good communication.
So,
I agree with Mr. Fay that we need to have that plan in place where we would know, but I also think that we, you know, have the use of that grace day too. So we've got 3, and the plan, you know, communication-wise, set the plan in place. We use the 3 snow days. The 4th day could be the grace day. If we have to take a 5th, the 6th, the 7th, and 8th, heaven help us, then it would be these days at the end of the school year, so that people would know you probably shouldn't plan your vacation for the very last day of school, because there is a chance something could happen.
okay.
But I do think if it was, you know, stated, this is how our plan is going to be if needed.
Okay. So what we're talking about is a hybrid of 6 and 7? Identifying potentially more days in the calendar. I guess it's just 7. It could be
I think
during
it's
the
just
school year or
6.
at the end of the school year.
I would say 6 and
8.
8.
6 and 8. And I guess in defense of teachers and students, the very few days that we have at the end of the school year are kind of precious to our students, you know, to get away and get them refreshed. Because if we would have taken that, you know, Easter Monday, for instance,
Mhm.
and the March day, let's say we needed 2 more days and we picked those, that would have given them basically Good Friday off in the last 12 weeks of school.
Mhm. Okay. I think that's valid. I think the converse point is that if you're only tacking on 1 day in a week, how much educational value is there in that day? And not putting any blame on teachers, but if you're gone for a weekend and you come back to school for 1 day and you know it's your last day of school as a child, how much are you going to do?
In the high school, we're going to do a lot because we have to test that day.
Right. Right. So I don't know, for me, it's almost like it'd be better in some ways to put your eggs in one basket and say, we're gonna put all the days at the end of the year, because there's at least some continuous nature of that, or to try to sprinkle them all throughout the year so that you're not coming back next week for just one random day.
From the aspect of a high school teacher who teaches on a block, I teach all quarter classes.
Mhm.
So if I miss 4 classes in the second quarter because of a snowstorm, I've missed 4 educational opportunities with those people, with those kids, and I get 4 additional educational opportunities with my 4th period kids.
Right. But that would be easily solved if we just moved the imaginary line that we draw between quarters, right? Every time we have a snow day? How hard would it be to do that?
We've done that this year.
Okay.
At
We did that.
Hagan.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it a really
No.
big deal? Okay.
We did it at the high school, our only issue was it fell on the early out day. So we
Yeah.
really had to
Test day and
do some things, so
Oh.
we had to split it up a little bit.
Okay. But generally, it works out okay if we just move that imaginary line that we've drawn that divides quarters.
Well, status quo for us is doable and ratifiable.
Okay. I'm gonna probably say no on the mutual gain though, because it doesn't help us to feel more confident that we're gonna be able to solve the problem.
Well, okay. If we stay in your status quo and we have the mother queen of all storms and we need 4 days right now, where are we going to put them? We're going to put them at the end of the calendar,
Okay.
correct?
Yes, I
I
mean, we
mean,
don't have a choice.
we would be forced to do that. We would have no option.
Unless we wanna go on Saturday.
That's right, and that's what we probably would do. We would add them at the end of the school year. I believe, you know, those school districts, I bet if we talked to most school districts, they would say, we are adding days at the end of the school year. I believe, I think I've talked to some people from Bismarck, and that's what they are doing. I mean, I think that's what we would end up doing. We would put them at the end.
So it would be comfortable if we had language that stated that any additional days missed beyond the snow days in the calendar would be added to the end of the year, and everyone would just know that's potentially going to happen?
I think you need to throw your grace day in there, because you do have an option for that.
We would have to, I think, that's when I would have to think about the problem or the potential problem with the grace day, so that shortchanges all of our classified employees, our hourly employees. They basically get a day deduct, 'cause they don't get to come to work and therefore they don't get paid. And then our students get 1 day less than kind of what we've in some ways said to the taxpayers, here's what we're providing, this many days of education for students. Those are my two hesitancies with the grace day. That being said, you could certainly think about it, and if it was part of the plan, you know, and I don't know where that comfort level would fall after we've made up 3 days or 4 days. Fine, the grace day is now part of the plan on day 4 or 5 or 6 or wherever we would put it. We're gonna take that grace day, and then after that, we'd have days at the end of the year. I think it's something we could talk about. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where my my other board members sit with that question. I think that's something I'd have to think about, but those are my concerns about it.
And I would agree with Mr. Schobinger that if it was an option, it should be placed in that.
In the plan
In the plan,
somewhere.
yeah. And if it is day 5, it's day 5, but if it's day 4, it's day 4. It would have to be a part of the plan. If it's one of the options that is available for us, we should use it.
Are we shortchanging our students, though, if we are going extra time now, and it all adds up right? Are they really being shortchanged then?
Not by state law, and I'm not saying that. I just, I think for me, it's a responsibility to taxpayers issue. You know, we ask for your money. In return, we say we're gonna provide this many days of education for your child. And now we're falling way short on that. I don't know, maybe parents wouldn't care, but it's just something that I think about when I think about taking that grace day. That's all. Okay, so I feel like we're coming to a consensus that we should have a plan, and that plan should include identified snow days in the calendar year.
And I would make mention that, you know, the 3 snow days that we already have in the calendar year.
Okay, and then we would like to consider the use of a grace day, and that days beyond that plan would then be placed at the end of the year. And everyone would be okay with language to that effect.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's legal and we understand that.
Okay.
But then, you know, they could plan, say, okay, that first week of June is out. Or they, by April, most of the time, you know, we would know if we would need those or not.
If you can go to Cancun or not.
Yeah, if I can get to Cancun or not. If I can
Okay.
take the Speedos out or not.
Picture.
So I'm not sure how to finish out what we've got up there. It sounds like we're talking about a mash of 6, 7, 8. So how are we gonna resolve that?
Are we looking at 7, where we are going to actually put more days into the calendar? In our mind, I think 6 and 7 is, you know, what we're looking at. We already
6
have
and 8.
3 days, or 6 and
Yeah.
8. We already have 3 days in the calendar that we're
Yeah.
utilizing as snow days, if needed. And the rest would then be Grace Day, end of the school year, or end of the school year, Grace Day, end of the school year. You know, however we work that plan.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, in kind of listening to what she says, I think the opinion of the teachers would be with that we've already conceded a 3rd day, which we've never had before. And we've never, in my time, have never needed. And I know that we thought about that this year because of the bad snowstorms, and then they kind of disappeared.
So far.
Yeah, I know.
Shush. Don't jinx us now.
So I would say, you know, we've already given the 3rd day, you know, and in the next 2-year time period, you know, if we end up doing a 2-year contract, if the 4th or 5th day is needed, then we can come back and discuss that.
Would a 4th identified snow day in the calendar year be unratifiable?
Possibly. I think we'd have to really.
We would really have to sell it, and it would have to depend upon when it was.
Yeah, my question would be, where would you put it? Because we're already putting one on our Easter break typically. We're putting one probably at the WDA basketball spring break weekend.
And one day, very
There's-
last day of school.
Yeah, there's really is nothing else after that. I mean,
I think it'd probably be
Thanks.
like President's Day or something.
all in January? Oh,
February.
I don't even know when we take that. February?
February, yeah.
You know, I think that if precedent said, you know, that we've been having 3 a year, and potentially a 4th would be needed, I think that we could go back and sell that, but being that we haven't had that need for 3 yet for quite a while, you know, the using 3 would be, you know, obviously 3 we've already accepted for next year. And if we added and we said, you know, if a 4th day was needed, it would be that first Tuesday after Memorial Day.
But now we're talking about taking Grace Day also. So, sorry, now this sounds positional. Trying to stay away from that. I guess my thought would be if we go back and talk to the board out about it, and depending on their feelings, it might be that they'd be more comfortable with thinking about using that Grace Day if we had 4 built-in snow days, because that's the worst scenario that has happened to date. And then everyone, it would meet
Okay.
our needs, everyone would still know when they would be able to plan ahead.
If we just said, you know, we have the 3 days already planned for next year, and if you added a asterisk to the day of the last day of school or the Tuesday after and said this will be an emergency snow day as needed, and if a 2nd day or if a 5th day was needed, it would be a Grace Day.
Yeah, how would that go?
I don't know.
Well, should we think on this one? I think we've gotten closer. to where we maybe need to go and come back to it next time. Maybe we can better define our options.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Fay?
flexibility of leave, can we
C.
hopefully tie that one up?
Item C, flexibility of leave.
I know at the end of last meeting, Mr. Reap indicated that the budget committee was going to meet and discuss ASOP and the potential of increasing the software to instantly tell somebody whether they had personal leave or emergency leave or anything like that left. And I don't know whether the outcome of that.
Yeah, the budget committee has met and has given the administration to move forward with Frontline, who would purchase those services for, and it would interface with our payroll system so that it would show the amount of leave left. It would also, when interfacing with ASOP, there could be all sorts of restrictions, but it will allow in smaller increments. I had Wanda in payroll check with that, and she said it absolutely will. And it will block people from taking leave if they don't have a balance. You can also have it block leave if people do not put an explanation in that blank. I mean, it can be very restrictive if you want it to. But, so we've started, we're gonna have webinars with them to start learning the system and how it works. The goal would be to launch that system by July 1. And obviously, we have a lot of training to do. The good news is we would just have to start with our 12-month employees then, and then pick up our 10-month hourly, and then the teacher groups and 9-month classified.
So 30-minute increments would be possible?
It would be possible.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
So I know we did identify stuff a long time ago. Did we not?
I believe we talked about it, but nothing was ever
Is that the one we
identified.
took a picture of and it got erased? Or did we not have one that got erased?
Sorry.
I believe it's
Flexibility of leave.
flexibility, I believe, yeah.
Item
Item
C.
Oops.
That would have been last meeting, so.
I believe we were at the point where you were going to talk to the cabinet
Sure.
about the flexibility of leave and 30-minute increments, and am I remembering correctly?
Right, I just couldn't
Mhm.
remember if we had gone
No.
through this with it or not.
I do not believe so. I do not.
And maybe I should let Dr. Sullivan speak to this, but I know that the cabinet had some concerns. And so then we said, well, maybe, we looked back and when personal leave was first given in 2-hour increments, there was a building that piloted it first, or maybe more than one building that piloted it first before it went district-wide. Because did you used to have to take entire personal days?
Half days.
Half days.
Okay,
It was half
so the
days.
quarter days was a pilot program that went well, and so then it was extended to the rest of the district.
I don't remember that one. I don't remember a pilot program, was it? Don't remember?
And so I asked Dr. Sullivan to see if there would be anyone willing to pilot this smaller increment of leave, and then if it works well, that would ease all of the cabinet members' concerns, and then we would know if it works or not. Dr. Sullivan, did you get any people who were willing to do that?
I have 2 that were voluntold. No, they did volunteer to.
Okay.
One, one secondary, one elementary.
Would that be a potential acceptable, I mean, we can go through the process and you can list it as an option. Would you like to go through that process and then weigh that option, or?
I think that's, you know, if we did a pilot program in the past and would we do that for 1 year or for 2 years, or what was the pilot program last time? I guess I didn't know.
My recollection, it was somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. It was actually took place during the middle of bargaining,
Okay.
because in that year, the parties started in, I think, October, finished in June.
If we only piloted it, if we piloted it for a whole year and one elementary school
Yeah.
does it, that's really not fair to every other elementary school. So I think if you're going to pilot it, it has to either be for a short time or it has to be everybody for a time to see how it goes.
Okay.
I mean, you have how many elementary schools, and if one of them gets to do this and the others don't, I don't know that that's right.
What were their concerns? You said that there's concerns.
The information that I was given was when 2-hour increments were put in place, one of the topics of discussion was that it is easy to find a substitute for 2 hours. However, since the implementation of ASOP, that has become an issue, because substitutes can go in, click on 2 hours in on the day, and then a full day will open up in another building on the same day. They will drop the 2 hours, pick up the
Yep.
full day.
Yeah.
And in that instance, we have students who are losing intervention instruction because the principals are then having to scramble around, because it happens at last minute, and pluck people who are qualified to be substitutes out of their regular assignment when they provide interventions for students. And so
Makes
there
sense.
are implications for education.
Dr. Sullivan, when you spoke to those individuals about piloting, did you talk about parameters? I guess I hadn't thought through or asked you how long it would be for, or any of those kinds of questions. Did you discuss that at all?
Very cursory.
Okay.
So I would not want to comment on that, because we have not come to an agreement on what that would look like. I haven't even had the 2 principals in the same room to have that conversation.
Okay.
No, I could be wrong, but I think, didn't we have this discussion last year a little bit about ASOP and teachers losing their, you know, their sub?
Mhm.
And we were told that they couldn't, once they took one, after 24 hours prior, they couldn't see any other ones.
Yes, but my understanding is what's happening is.
They're getting phone calls.
Yes, they get a phone
Phone
call from
calls.
somebody, so then they know they should drop that one, and then they can see it. Once you drop the assignment, you can see everything else.
And when it happens last minute, that's what
Right.
really makes it problematic.
Mhm.
Just for the information of the parties, we have about 6 minutes.
Okay. So would you like us to come back with details or potential parameters on the potential pilot program, and then
I
we'll have better
think a
discussion?
pilot program would be nice to see.
Okay, all right.
I know, and I do believe most of the rest of them deal with money. Of our things that we have left deal with
Mhm.
money.
So are we ready to debrief?
I think so.
Okay. The minutes of April 19th were reviewed and approved. There were no tentative agreements tonight. Item A was discussed. regarding simplifying leave language. And there is a tentative verbal agreement. The language that was discussed will be typed up and presented at the next meeting for consideration for signing a tentative agreement. Flexibility of leave was discussed, and that will be discussed at the next meeting with some parameters. Item O was discussed, the school calendar, and it's still a topic of discussion at this point, and I think Mrs. Ricks is going to try and gather some additional information. I think that sums it up. So that takes us to schedule the next meeting date and time.
I know I cannot on Wednesday.
You cannot what?
Wednesday, I cannot.
Yes, I also cannot.
Okay.
And I also cannot.
We might be all in the same
I don't think we might be.
And Thursday is a home track meet, so it's out.
place. Tuesday? Or that might be too soon for Charlotte.
That will be extremely difficult for
Yeah.
Clara.
Then we're into May 8th.
I am not
Yeah,
able
it's
to
a
May.
school board
That's a school board meeting. Tuesday, May 9th?
I'm staying home anyway.
Okay.
You and I can stay home
Yeah,
on
okay,
that day.
we'll be here.
I'm in line
Sitting
You're in
with-
lineup.
I probably won't be available on the night.
And the 10th.
I don't know if you need me here for that one.
I cannot do the 10th. I could do the 11th. No,
Possibly
no,
not able
11th.
to do the 11th.
Well, we may have to go without one of us then. It's
Are you okay on any of those days, Kim?
I could probably.
I can do the
8th.
11th.
Did we have a problem with the 8th? Did we?
It's
have-
our school board
Oh,
meeting.
school board meeting, that's right.
I guess you could come negotiate with the whole board. That might be kind of fun.
Maybe.
I suggest no.
This is my smirk.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
We're a fun group. Come on.
What day, whatever works that week for you guys.
The 9th?
Yep, that works.
Were your feelings be really hurt, Mr. Mullins?
No. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight either, so.
Well, I'm glad you were here.
Tuesday, May 9th,
I think that's what we're looking at.
6 p.m.?
time.
6 is fine with me.
It's fine.
It may snow and I might be here. We're going to Minot. It might snow in Minot.
Okay.
Okay, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. Meeting is adjourned.
Definitely won't be warm.
Fun,
We've only
mile
done
high.
stuff, well, it's not gonna be.